Hey, good morning, everyone. Mic check, sound check. Hey, good morning. Good morning, Delphine. Good morning, Stu. Hey, Stu, here. That's Reverie. I'll have him reach out to you. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Good morning. Morning, everyone. All right, good morning. It's Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. Welcome to the Pitbull Traders Morning Game Plan. I'm your host, Manny. The purpose of the show is simple: live futures trading, real-time technical analysis, and actionable trade setups, all with the focus on building real trading skills and the mindset designed to drive consistent profitability. Every morning we'll come in with one goal: to build out the structure before the open so that we're operating in alignment with the day's dominant forces. We're not going to guess. We're not going to chase. All right, guys and gals, let's get after it. Let's map it out. Just really quickly, we just had a PPI print. It came in bad, and I posted in the Pitbull Traders chat in our private community. If you want to know more about that, the link's in the description. And I posted what I've been saying. In line, what I've been saying all along is that the market is liquidity driven. Bad news. Bad news. The market dips, initially gets sold, and then absorbed. Buyers show up, higher lows, and we continue with the Artemis move to the moon. Now, remember, the Artemis move. The reason why we're calling it the Artemis move is because what? Because it started literally on the day that Artemis launched to the moon. And since then, we are up, what, a whopping 15%? Negative 17% from the 63.53 low. We were up 17%. That's just a monster gain, monster move. All right, guys, let's just map it out. Let's get into the charts. We'll do as we do every morning. We're going to start off with what is the condition of the overnight inventory. The reason why we do that is because typically you see a move off the open or during the day to reset that overnight inventory. So we want to make sure that we're in alignment with that and make sure that we're on the right side of it. Okay. So wait, let's get into the higher time frame first. All right. So on your chart on the left-hand side is a 4-hour chart of the ES futures. And immediately what points out to what we can see immediately here is that we have another higher low, right? So we came yesterday, we took out that 63, let's see, I think it was 63.93 to be exact. Let me just make sure I get it right. Oh, no, sorry, 63.89 low and during the morning session. And what? We never got down to test the 73.73 low that we highlighted would actually signal a structural shift. What we did mention in the early morning prep was that if we sold below the 63.89 low, and that would be last Friday's low, and we reclaimed it, then that was an excellent spot for us to put in an hourly higher low, a continuation of the trend, and that's exactly what we saw. So we got the dip, but we never took out the 73.36 low. We did sweep the Friday low at 73.89, reclaimed it, and since then we've retested the high, the previous high, the previous regular trading hour session high at 74.54.75, and we came into within 2 ticks of that high this morning. All right. So I drew out a couple of trend lines here just so that we can, just for visual reference, so I can kind of have an idea of where we might run into trouble on this move. If you've been listening in, we've been mapping out that we've been looking for 74.50 to 7,500 on the ES, and that has not changed. All right. So the higher time frame being covered, we have another higher low, that being yesterday's low. We're going to make sure that we maintain that low in our narrative, right? Make sure that we frame that low, have it top of mind, 73.63 low. All right. So let's dig in. Let's get into the 15-minute chart. That's where the rubber meets the road and where we can map out how we're going to trade the day in the day time frame. okay? And what we use to analyze that is just kind of like DTF, right? Day time frame. All right, so let's dig into the 15-minute chart. Okay, so let's talk about the overnight inventory. So to get an idea of what the overnight inventory looks like, we always use the reference of what was the prior day settlement. Yesterday, ES settled at 74.2650. All right, and you can see that most of the overnight volume was transacted above the settlement. Okay, so gap higher type of look. However, just recently after making the 74.54 quarter high, we kind of paired that off and we traded lower, a lot lower on the negative PPI print. Of course, that was absorbed. If you guys are following the market blueprint, we had an excellent setup there that's paid 5 and 10 points, and we're in a runner now. All right, so the overnight inventory is kind of paired off. I would have to say that it's more new. If I'd have to put a number on it, I would say that it's more long than short. However, that's been paired off quite a bit in the last few hours with the negative PPI dip. All right, so we're going to do as we do every morning. We're going to map out the most bullish argument. We're going to map out the most bearish argument. We're going to highlight the bullish trap trade, the bearish trap trade, and then the dreaded sideways moves. And guys, remember, follow in, make sure that you highlight or you take screenshots of these charts, because pretty much I'm going back and reviewing them. And, while we outline 5 potentialities, pretty much every day, one of those is playing out in some way or form. And again, the mission of this show, the purpose of the show is to keep us in alignment with the day's dominant forces. So if you're kind of tuning in on that and zeroing out the noise, it'll keep you in alignment with the day's dominant forces, as well as put some coin in your pocket, right? That's the whole purpose of this. All right, so let's dig in. All right, so mapping out the most bullish argument. Say we're opening 74.32 and we get a move higher. Immediately what we have to contend with is this prior low, right? So we have this kind of like this prior balance low that we're testing, that's at 73.40 to be exact. And you can see here from the 15-minute chart, that's where we bounced a few times just prior to the bad PPI print. All right, so let's say immediately if we get a move that tests above that and we breach that, because we all know that supports then become resistance once you lose them. But if we breach that, and if it doesn't act as support, if it doesn't act as resistance, and we get above it, at that point, we can start looking for pullbacks, right? We want to look for pullbacks to that 73.40 low, even maybe as low as yesterday's high, 74.33. Okay, so if we get that pullback and it holds, we see sellers being absorbed and we see price stabilizing. At that point, we can start looking for long entries. Okay, and the target there would be what? The overnight high. Okay, so if we reach up, if we breach the 73.40, okay, and we get above it, price demonstrates some acceptance, and then we get a pullback to either there or yesterday's high. At that point, what we need to start doing is looking for stabilization, looking for acceptance above yesterday's high, and we can start entertaining long entries to target the overnight high at 74.54. All right. So that's the most bullish argument. Hopefully we get an open drive higher for all of you guys along with me off setup number 1 on the market blueprint. Yeah, we're kind of looking for that most bullish iteration. Let's see what pans out. We always want to be prepared for whatever might transpire. All right, so let's talk about the bullish trap trade, and then we'll talk about some in-betweens, okay? 1 second here. Let me shift this, grab a quick screenshot, and then move on. Okay. All right, let's talk about the bullish trap trade. So say that we breach the 73.40 high, right? And we come up and we touch 73.40 and immediately price stalls out, okay? And if we stall out and price comes back down into yesterday's high, okay, trapping any longs above yesterday's high, and we get back into yesterday's range, okay, at that point we can start looking for what? This might be a liquidation break. We might see some lower prices, another buy the dip opportunity. But at that point, we can start entertaining short scalps, right? We can take the base hits, kind of get those evaluations passed and get those prop firms to paydays. All right. And at that point, if we can get that pullback to that 73.40 low, we can start entertaining short scalp ideas that get us short into what? A true gap fill, targeting the settlement at 74.26. Okay, so remember, we're looking for price to rally high, kind of maybe test the 73.40, 73.45, but just really find no traction. Bulls are unable to gain a following. There's no interest in driving price higher. At that point, we have to kind of switch our approach and start looking at a potential gap fill down to the settlement at 74.26. All right. So that could be a one potential bullish trap trade. Another one that could materialize is if we rally high, we even get as high as the overnight high, right? And the same thing happens, right? We kind of, there'd be eyes on this double top here on the higher time frame. We look above it, price peters out, maybe does a little, puts in a lower high, but immediately falls back into the overnight range. And we'll know that because we have an excellent reference using the day time frame reference of the overnight high at 74.54. We can start at that point thinking about, okay, maybe we're going to go fall back into balance. We're going to get a gap fill. At that point, we can start looking for short entries that get us down to yesterday's high being the first target. Of course, we're going to take our scales along the way, but ultimately, we want to try to be really in profit at break evens, trailing it down pretty aggressively with the understanding that we're in an uptrend and we're kind of countering that. And we can start trailing it down and see if we can even get down to yesterday's settlement. Okay. So again, if we enter that trade, our risk markers immediately become the overnight high, 74.54. Remember, we want to see price come back into that range and show acceptance within that range. Okay, so that's not just, we come back into, we test below the 74.54 overnight high, and price just kind of peters out. We want to see a couple of prints close there, and then at that point, once the tape is telling us that, hey, we're going to stay within the overnight range, at that point we start looking for entries on pullbacks or on pull-ups, I should say, and for the trade to get us down to yesterday's high. All right, so that covers the bullish trap trade. Let's talk about the most bearish iteration that can materialize here off the open, and then we'll talk about the dreaded sideways move after we cover the bearish trap trade. All right, so say we'll open here, we're unable to get above the 73.40, the 74.40 prior low that acted as support. Okay, so if we're unable to breach that and that acts as resistance here, okay, and we get a liquidation break right off the open, immediately what we want to do is we want to make sure that we get through the settlement. Now, remember, here's a nuance. We all know that when price, and if you don't know, you'll know now, price always tends to, more often than not, very high probability, it's going to bounce at the settlement. And that's an excellent tell. It's typically good for a 1 or 2 point scalp. But what we want to see is judge the reaction of that bounce, right? Because if that bounce doesn't get us up to yesterday's high, it kind of just peters out and we start to move lower, retesting it. At that point, we're going to start thinking, okay, this is going to be a bit lower of a liquidation break. We get back below the settlement. At that point, we're going to start looking for short scalps that get us down to the opposite end of yesterday's value area. The top of yesterday's value area being value area high, and even maybe as low as the overnight low at 74.10. Time out. Let me just take some profit here. Okay. So remember, the value area is where 70% of the prior days, 70% of the prior days volume transacted. And we want to, typically the rule of thumb is when you test the value area and you get back within, the price demonstrates acceptance within the prior day's value area, you're typically going to, that means that the market is signaling that there's not a shift in sentiment. That means that The market doesn't perceive higher prices. We're still in range. It's still what we call still being in balance. At that point, typically what you're going to see is price traverse or really maybe even test the value area low at 73.71. All right. So that covers the bullish argument. The most bearish argument. Let's talk about the bearish trap trade, and then we can move on to the dreaded sideways move. All right, we get the liquidation break here opening at 74.32, and it's a hot knife through butter. We get through the settlement. We get through the opening print, much like we did yesterday, and we get immediately down to the overnight low. Okay, liquidation break is upon us. There's nary a bounce. At that point, what are we going to start doing? We're going to start using the settlement. We're going to start using the opening print as we do every day, using our daytime frame references to frame out, to use as a fulcrum for what the morning session's intention are. Okay, so if we get that liquidation break, immediately what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to monitor this 74.20 low that we just bounced off of for what? For price to demonstrate acceptance. So we're looking for closes below, and we're looking for pullbacks or pull-ups that fail to reclaim it and show acceptance above it. At that point, we're looking for short entries that get us down to the overnight low or potentially even lower down to yesterday's value area. Remember, value area high from yesterday, because we're gapping up today. We're up about 4 points still. Value area high is 74.11, and the overnight low is 74.10. So if price gets below there and we get closes below there, we get a few 5-minute prints, we get a 15-minute close down there, and price is definitely showing an acceptance below or within the prior day's value area. At that point, we can start entertaining short entries or short scalps that get us keep us down in the value area. And let's go over how that can ultimately lead into a trap. All right. So if we get down into the value area and price stalls out, if it stalls and it fails to gain attraction, meaning we start to see it being rejected from value, right? So it's unable to get through yesterday's pullback low, and yesterday's pullback low being 74.02, and we start to make a higher print. Let's keep in mind that 74.02 pullback low from yesterday, and we test it, and then price comes back up, and we reclaim the overnight low at 74.10, reclaim value area high, and we have a lower high a higher low put in. At that point, we start to look for long entries, and we know that, okay, bears are trapped, bulls showed up, they absorbed all the selling, it's game on to the upside, and we're going to go up and test the settlement, ultimately test yesterday's high, and maybe even reach as high as the overnight high at 74.54. All right, so that covers the bearish trap trade. We've got the opening bell here. Let's mark down, as we do every morning, we're going to mark down our opening print. Immediately off the open, let's just see what our open print was. It's really important that we always mark down the open print. 74.29 quarter is today's opening print. All right. So immediately what stands out to me is that we opened at 74.29 quarter and we just immediately broke lower. Now, we don't know yet if this is going to be a true liquidation break or if what we're seeing is just kind of a continuation of resetting of that overnight inventory. That's why we're going to have to pay attention here really closely to that 74.20 low. Let's see if price can breach it, get below it. Remember, if yes is selling, it's going to sell hard and fast, and we're going to know it because we should be down by the overnight low in the first half an hour. All right. So we kind of skipped over the dreaded sideways move. We'll cover that if it starts to materialize. But at that point, what we're looking for really is just like a first opening doji print. And the first sign of that would be an opening 5-minute doji print, right? So that's the price showing its inability to break that first 5-minute range, and we'll monitor for that. But obviously here off the open, the first thing that stands out to me, guys, is that this is looking a lot like yesterday, right? Yesterday we had the open. I think we clicked above the open print by 4 to 6 ticks, and then it was an immediate liquidation break. All right, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. We're below that 74.20 reference low. This low, the precise low was 74.16. Okay, the precise low was 74.16. So let's keep an eye on that. To be exact, 74.16 quarter. No, sorry, 74.16 half. What's a few ticks? What's a tick between friends, huh? All right, let's monitor here. Let's be alert. Let's stay alert here. If you guys are following the market blueprint, if you guys are using SPYGATE, remember, if you do sign up for a Pitbull Traders evaluation account, SPYGATE comes complimentary with that. So go to pitbulltraders.com to check that out. And again, SPYGATE, right? It's our institutional activity tracker, right? That lets us know if large tranches of buy or sell programs are being executed on the New York Stock Exchange. It's an excellent tool to kind of give us a sentiment for what the larger institutions are doing. It's an excellent tool. You can read more about it at pitbulltraders.com or at mrtopstep.com. Hey, Easy Money, Manny. Sorry if out of line regarding your levels, but our setup's a mix of VP and VWAP weekly bands. No, Easy Money. So they're a mix of liquidity zones and Fibonacci clusters. So hard to the Fib clusters are I kind of lose people when I start to explain them. But so I have a program that will take every Fibonacci retracement, extension, expansion, and one-to-one alternate. And then it will analyze those over as many time frames as I give it. So if I wanted to look at the daily, the 4-hour, the 15-minute, and so on, I input about 10 different time frames. Then at that point, what it does is, and this is really the secret sauce, is there's an algorithm, and I don't understand it. It's a program that I bought. There's an algorithm that calculates which one of those levels. Because if you map out all of those levels over 10 different time frames, you'll literally have a level on every. You'll have a level on every price. But what it does is it then calculates which are the strongest levels or where there's most confluence. And those levels are really, really strong. I've been using them, been framing my trading around them for, well over 5 years. No, way more than that. But they work. I use them because they work. I've tested a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff out there doesn't work. And I've been through it. I've been through, over the course of my career, over 15, 16 years now, I've tried a lot of different stuff. I've thrown away nearly 80% of it because it just didn't work. And what I have now is really a trimmed down version of what does work, where I can get the strongest zones. And when those Fibonacci clusters line up with the liquidity zones, I mean, I'm placing an order there. If I'm going to risk capital, then that's where I'm going to risk it. And so Easy Money. So just so you know, I tend to stay away from showing that on screen here, just because I don't want to confuse folks. I want to analyze the market and look at the market from a perspective of a discipline that most people understand. All right, so let's stay alert here, guys. Let's watch. Make sure that we let's see if price demonstrates some acceptance below that 74.16 low. Yep, you're welcome. So I'm glad I took the profit when I did. Glad I stayed out. Glad I got out of that because it just I tend to many of you guys know I love trading in the pre-market and not just, it's not a personal opinion, it's just where I tend to do best, do well. And so usually if I'm in a position and I'm in it close to the RTH session open, I am going to close out that position nearly 90% of the time, because I just I do not want to be in a position and then lose it on the opening, in the opening volatility. That's all. Pretty simple. All right, so immediately jumping out of the gate here, the algo has me in a CCI crossover short, and we're looking for lower targets on that. Let me just get the account number. Oh, what's that? Okay, so we're looking for, on this one, we're looking for 74.11. That immediately doesn't look right to me. Should be 74.09 and 74.04. Again, you guys know I run the PTG algorithms. If you want to know more, shoot me an email, send me a DM. And that one is looking for 74.09. Let's see if we can get a fill here. I'm looking at the order flow, monitoring it for continuation. I thought I was going to be joined by, oh, there he is. A for short premium. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, I didn't catch that one. Let me see. Nope, I didn't catch it. Keeping a close eye on the order flow here. So we have 74.11 low, 176 contracts. It looks like, guys, we have a 74.11. There's an iceberg sitting there. Iceberg order at 74.11. They blasted it with 176 contracts, and they were unable to break through. Yeah, that definitely tells me there's somebody sitting there. Immediately, guys, it came in at 74.11 quarter, hammered it with 250 on the offer. And then at 74.11.75, 456 contracts hit the offer, and those buyers were what did they get for it? Right? They didn't get much. 74.11. Let's see if they hold it here. We're gonna go retest it now. Okay. Yep. Getting some absorption here. We'll see if that iceberg is still sitting there. Oh, they're hammering them. They're hammering, coming through. There it is. Yep, looking low, getting lower. Okay, wait, did they lose steam? Losing steam here. There's a duel going on here for sure. Come on, baby. Let's go. Feel me, let's go. Oh, come on. Why is it that last tick? It's always the last tick. You gotta be kidding me. Duh. Seeing some delta divergence here. It looks like they got below the 74.11, and I'm gonna have to chase this up like everybody else and get out. Just take something off, get 5 points on it. If I can get out of it, come on, let me out. Let's go, baby. All right, immediately I'm gonna tighten up. At least I got 5 points on it. I'm gonna let it rock. I'm going to tighten. I want to get something in this account. Remember, if you guys have trading evaluations, right? Make sure you lock in those gains. You want to have something for each trade. And I'm going to trail this very tightly here because I want to, like I said, I want to make sure I get paid. I want to get something in that account. I want to get something brewing. I want to feel good about stuff. I want to make sure that I see green on my screen. Green on the screen. All right, watch these 74, 1750, 1750s here. Watch 1750s for resistance. Let's see. I'm going to have to trail above it. All right, super tight stop, 1775. We've got a low volume notch at 1750, guys. Heads up. Pay attention here. Yeah, they're pounding them, though. They're coming for them. They're coming for them. Yep. Let's see if they break through. Do they bust through? Oh, yeah. We're toast. We're toast. Come on. Oh. Dang it. Ah. Oh, yeah. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, Simon. Sorry. Yes, Simon. Dang, sorry, I'm just seeing this now. Hey, Simon, I'm going to heads up. I know you've been following and listening in, watching on socials on YouTube, and I appreciate it. And just as a heads up, I'm bringing in somebody here who's going to be able to field these requests for me and get them to my desk. As it is right now, I have to turn and answer. So look out for that. Like I said, we're adding value every week to the show. We're bringing that person on next week. I hoping it's going to start next week, and he's just going to be able to field me all these comments, make sure that I'm engaged with you guys. So stay tuned for that. All right, so I got taken out there, stopped out of that. Took a small gain, 5 and 2 points. It swept that low volume node. And for those of you that are familiar with volume profile and kind of the jargon there, one thing that that I've noticed over many years of trading and just being observing volume profile. And if you guys don't know what that is, right? So volume profile is basically this graph that you see here on the chart, right? And this just shows us how much volume traded at each price. And so typically when you get low volume nodes, like, so you see how we have all these rounded, we have high volume here, we have high volume here, right? High volume here. But when you have, those are called high volume nodes. When you have low volume nodes, which is just the opposite, those tend to act as resistance at times. Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the caveat, or the nuance, I should say. What I've noticed, and I often see many traders make this mistake, is they place too much emphasis on an early volume node, right? So what I mean by that, I mean that early in the day, low volume nodes should be ignored, because early in the day, the day is just starting, volume's just building, traders are just getting to their desks, okay, and that will typically fill in early in the day. So wait for the afternoon session to kind of watch those and to use those as supports and resistance. So typically what you want to do is you want to look at it as a high volume node is a supply zone, and a low volume node is, well, depending on where we're approaching from, but just look at it as, a high volume node it typically takes price a little bit longer to cut through that level. Okay. And a low volume node would be something that a price kind of gets rejected from. Okay. I feel like I'm being shot here. What is going on? All right, moving lower. It looks like I got chopped out, but I caught it in this one. This algo got me short. It's got me short 74.16. You can see there on your screen, we're looking for the second target at 74.06. Looking for a fill there. Kind of messy this morning. Kind of messy. I got shaken out of that trade. I should have just left my stop in. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. All right, moving lower here, moving lower. Heads up. I'm going to put the profile on regular trading hours. All right, guys. So we're through now. All right. So heads up. Price is now dipping below the overnight low. Okay. So let's stay alert here. Stay alert. Similar with what we saw yesterday, right? Same context, right? Let's make sure we're paying attention to this stuff, right? So history often rhymes, right? So the last 2 days, we get the big liquidation break in the morning. And then after we get the liquidation break, what happens? Price finds support, price balances. All right. So let's make sure we stay alert. Jesus, what a great liquidation! God dang it, I got stopped out for a point, dude. That bleeds. That grinds my gears. That just grinds my. Let me know, guys. Let me know, guys. What grinds your gears the most in trading? 73.99. Let's see if we have anything working here for us. Let's see what our next pre-planned setup is. Okay, we're in that zone, guys. We're in that zone. Heads up. Heads up. Heads up. I kind of missed it. I was distracted. I got distracted here. Dang it. Oh, dang, that was my zone right there. Guys, if you're following the market blueprint, that was setup number 2. I missed it. God dang it. Got distracted here. Had a text message, got distracted on it. Focus, Manny. Ah, gosh. All right. So the setup was support zone 73.92 to 73.96. Guys, if I ever fudge the numbers, if I ever confuse 73 and 74, please let me know. Give me a heads up. All right, let's see if that support holds. We are below the overnight low. We just tagged the support. Came down, retested it. I don't like this long, so I'm getting out of that. Ugh. I'm just gonna have to get some micros in. Dang it. I'm like 10 points above where I wanted them. Shit. I can't do that. I can't do that. That's just irresponsible. Man. All right. Well, Got a good taper down there, guys. 73.99 low. Good taper down there. And by taper, what I mean is a good volume taper. So volume kind of, so if you look at it on this chart, right, you see how volume kind of it was always going to be thicker in the middle, but down here we had a nice good taper down, right? It's kind of like if you can imagine a bell curve, kind of always looks like this, right? So if you're by the edges, right, you want to see like what we see up here, a volume taper. That's what we saw there. Oh, crap. All right. So heads up. I mean, I have to, whatever, 2 micros. So bad. Do as I say, not as I do. That's horrible, though. I've really got to get better about being able to multitask and having those zones because so what's so fundamental to the way to the way I'm used to trading before streaming was dialing in and focusing in, having this laser focus on the zones that this is why I had to have, obviously I've been trading for a long time and I've had a trade plan. So I kind of started that way. Right. But what's so fundamental about it, guys, for me at least, is that has always been watching a specific price band, typically like a 5-point band, and then watching that zone and stalking it for an entry. Okay. And, so as a part of that, I became really good, or over time, I developed a skill to be able to, identify the nuances of what I want to see, when price gets to a particular level. Okay. And so that's why order flow is really important to me. You'll hear me talk about, delta shifts. I want to see a delta divergence at that price zone. I want to see a taper if I'm buying a support zone outside of a prior balance area. So you have your prices, right? You have your zones, where you want to do business. But then are the conditions right for an entry, right? And not, that's what'll keep you out of, getting long, and getting chopped to pieces. Is David going to join me today? I don't know if you can hear me. I know I can't hear. I know he's not live in the pit. So I'm just, we might be joined by David today here, guys. So stay tuned for that. Okay. I don't know what this thing is doing. Was this the 3000? Yeah. All right, let's watch this here. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and close that out. Dang it, 3-point loss on that. So that's a shiner. Mel shiner. Let me get this thing tuned up here. So I picked up some micros, guys. I had to pay up, right? I'm not going to go in on the mini down there. I mean, it is what it is, right? At least I got something on. It's my zone. It's a pre-planned setup. It's what it is. Price coming back down. I already got taken out of those. It was only 2 micros, so it's not. Wait a minute. I'm not out. I'm still in. Hang on. Hang tight. Where's the stop on this puppy? So immediately what we're seeing here, what we're looking for, right, is a reclaim. Heads up, guys. The only price that matters right now is the overnight low, 74.10, value area high, 74.11. We reclaimed that. Price shows acceptance back below, back within the overnight range. It's with just simply a liquidation break from the overnight inventory. All right. Stay alert here. Again, price. So now, in order for price to really demonstrate that acceptance back within the overnight range, right, which is above 74.10, above value area high 74.11, right, what we want to see is price to reclaim that 74.20. All right. But thus far, we've traded down to 73.99, market blueprint support zone. We bounced, we wicked on the 15, and now we're moving up. So we're reclaimed, we're above. Let's see if we can get some acceptance above the overnight low, 74.11. Sorry, 74.10. So the only level that matters right now, 74.10. Keep your eyes on that. Stay peeled. Stay alert. Looking for 74.20 on the first scale of the itty bitty micro trade. You need these really big moves in order to, pay the bills with micros, but whatever. So I got 74.10, 75. I've just got a target filled. Let me know where you guys are checking in from. What part of the country, what part of the world. South Carolina. Good job, Stuart. Alito, Texas. J Trades. How's the weather there, guys? I'm in sunny South Tampa. Paris, France. Delphine. My favorite city in the world. Paris. Lovely. 71. Yeah, Texas is nice. Yeah, Delphine. I love Paris, man. Me and my wife went there. Fantastic time in Paris. Probably maybe it was, yeah, that was probably my favorite city. No doubt. Unquestionable. All right, guys. So we're looking, got these longs in at 74.10. We're looking for 74.20 for scale. Again, I'm pressing these because I think the low of the day could be down there, but also because I'm trading micros, and it just takes, you got to travel further with these. That's the bottom line. If we do get up above and through the open, I'm going to tighten up. But if it comes down on me hard, I don't know if I'll hold on. If I'll hold on to them, I'm certainly not going to put my stop below the low. I don't want to risk 10 points on it. But hopefully, we pull up and get me that first target filled. If not, I'll just kind of manage these dynamically, right? Like just eye it up. Look, if I see a divergence or something, I'll just, click the close button. It's a great part of being a discretionary trader. Brighton, UK. Simon checking in from Brighton, UK. Sweet. Nice. Nice. I've been to London. I've been to London. That was most like my hometown, New York City. Yep. It went to wow, what was that? Hyde Park. That's right. We were uh did the touristy things like visit Hyde Park. Still my favorite city was sorry, Simon, but my favorite city was definitely Paris. Paris rocks. And they have like this ordinance in Paris where like you can't build over a certain height. And so you can really like see the skyline really well. And you could take like these really cool rides on the river on the Seine. Really cool. All right, coming up here, right? Tested 74.17. Not going to be greedy. I'm going to take some off here. Took two off. Yeah, so Simon checking in on from Brighton, UK. Yeah, I didn't really get out there. I kind of did the touristy thing in London. But yeah, I thought that London was most like New York City. And that's my hometown. Living in sunny South Tampa now. That's right. It sure is, David. It sure is. All right, come on, pull up. Tell me I got the low of the day. The market blueprint gets the low of the day. So the idea was a friend of ours went, Delphine, a friend of ours just went, actually two friends of ours just went in just like a month ago. And we were talking to them about doing so when we went there we only had I have three kids. When we went there I only had one, and we said, hey, let's wait for the kids to get older before we start traveling internationally, just because of the long plane rides, and so also that they can get something out of it, so they can form memories and stuff. And so we were just talking to a friend of ours, and um, we're actually considering it. So so I think Paris is really great in October and fall. Gosh, I can't believe I just said that. That sounds so douchey. All right, guys. So here, back to price, right? Let's dial in the focus. So we got that 74.20 test. All right. I've got about 5 points in this trade. I took off profit at 5 points. I got that 5 point scale in following the system. I need a 74.21 print to get the 10 point scale. So sticking to that, I'm going to tighten up the risk somewhat. I'm right here below this prior pivot low. I don't want to trail it too tight. You guys know I'm not a fan of tight stops. Thanks for checking in, guys. Wow, I didn't know we had people checking in internationally. That's pretty cool. What's really I mean, I don't know if you find it odd. I did. So I had someone check in from Iraq, of all places. Seriously, I'm not lying. Maybe he was pinging off of a server. I don't know, but yeah, that's what it was. In Paris, I love that little village down there by gosh, by the big church, the one that burned. It's got a nice little village on there. You can sit outside and drink and stuff. Very cool. The oddest thing though was going to UK, right? And people often say, "Oh, it's so cloudy there." And I was there; it was sunny every day. Come on, pull up. Let's go. Give me that 74.21 print. Let's go. 73.99, low of the day. Let's go. Let's rally. Let's stay above. So thus far, guys, just bringing you back into the tape, right? So if you're just joining us, Manny Pitbull Traders, and we're tracking the ES. The only level that matters for us right now was the 74.10. That was the overnight low from the overnight session. We've just reclaimed it. That triggered our longs. We got long at 74.10. We got 5 points off of that at 74.15, and now we're looking for our second target at 74.21. For sure, Delphine. I will 100%. I'd love to do that. All right, we pulled up to 74.19, narrow miss. Oh, thanks. Appreciate the support, Delphine. I hope we bring some value to your trading. Hang out, stick around. It's trading is something that takes a while to get acclimated to, but we're here to add value to everybody, to your trading. I hope we help you make some money. That's the whole purpose of this. That's the whole point of this. Wouldn't be out here doing it if we didn't think we were capable. All right, let's tune back in, see what I got brewing, see what I got cooking here. Still got those. Still got that. I still have that long on from 74.11. Long 4 from there. Narrow miss on that first target. What I don't like is that now we're into that execution window. Well, actually, no, it's still got about 6 minutes. And what I mean by execution window is the execution clock. If you want to learn more about that, go check it out on the X feed at Manny_trends. All right, guys, still just chopping around here. Let's see if the Artemis move to the moon continues. What we have to stay on alert for. Let's dial this down a little bit. Let's get a little bit more granular on the higher time frame. Let's look at the hourly. Okay. Do we have the potential for a higher low? Yes. We have a double top that's in effect, right? Double top. That's step one. But you know what I'm seeing here? Immediately, what jumps out to me is an a head and shoulders. Okay, so this would be the left shoulder. This would be the head. This would be the right shoulder. All right. So if this is truly an inverted head and shoulders, let's map it out. Let's target it. Let's see what theoretically what the target should be. All right. So to do that, I'm going to switch over to the Thinkorswim charting platform. I love Thinkorswim for higher time frame analysis. So here's our left shoulder. Here is our right shoulder. Here is our head. Okay. And then to get an idea for so in order to measure out where it would go to, you have to measure peak to trough. So to do that, I just put a trend line there, and then I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to just literally put it to the top of this. So if this head and shoulders plays out, I mean, this is a rough estimate. I'll fine tune it during lunch today so we can get a precise price, but this would target 75.32. So if this head and shoulders plays out, we're going to leave it up on the chart for a few days, see if it plays out. These don't play out right away. Okay, got the target, guys, plus 10 points. Boston Rich, checking in from Boston. Love it. Love it. Good job. Hey, welcome to the team, Rich. Guys, if you need anything, make sure you shoot us a DM. Let me know how we can help you. Always happy to help. So, hey, if you're just checking in, we got long, the ES. We were looking for, we framed it out in the pre-market analysis. Okay, we were looking for a reclaim of the overnight low. The bearish trap trade has materialized. We walked through it. We had the taper at the low. We hit the support zone. But I missed that support zone like that I had the pre-planned setup for. But no worries, right? I just simply traded the next setup, which was the one we outlined in the pre-market prep. And what we're looking for is a reclaim of the overnight low. So just to frame that out, to give you a little bit more context, a little bit more understanding of how we're looking at the market, right? So so at the overnight low, 74.10 was also 1 point above, was yesterday's value area high. Now, if you don't know what the value area is, the value area is where 70% of the prior day's volume transacted. Okay, so that's a range. So yesterday's value area high, the high part of that range, it's not the entire range of the day, it's just a portion of the day's range. So the higher portion of that was 74.11. The lower portion was 73.71. Okay, so when price gets back into the prior day's value, that signals to us that there's not a shift, that the trend is kind of markets in balance. It's not really discerning a shift in the value. Okay. But if it does get rejected from value, that also signals that buyers are stepping in, right? That in this case, buyers are stepping in, that they're bidding the market up, and that we're going to continue the trend move higher. That's exactly what unfolded here. So we tested below the overnight low, reset the overnight inventory. Then we reclaimed the overnight low at 74.10, and also confluent setup because we got rejected from the prior day's value. Okay. And then in order to signal, we wanted to see, we don't want to get trapped, right? So we want to understand, hey, does price signal acceptance? And in order for us to have a sign that price was being accepted above the overnight low and also being rejected from yesterday's value area, meaning signaling we're going to see higher value today develop, we wanted to get above 74.20. All right, so we're in that zone, and 74.20 was kind of this band here where we came down and we tested in the pre-market and then we bounced up. So that's kind of what we're seeing now. The next target for us is going to be up at the settlement, 74.2650. All right. If you're just joining us, that's what's happening. 74.2650 is kind of what we're looking for here. We're going to make sure we have a scaled order there. Testing back up into 74.20 again. Let's see what the high looks like. Hey, 74.29 thus far. 74.29.50 is our high of the day. So far in the regular trading hour session that starts at the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange, 9:30 a.m. Okay. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we opened at 74.29.50. That's also our current high of the day. Going out on a limb here and saying that that is not going to be the high of the day for the remainder of the session. We will see. Just a hunch, backed by two pieces of data. We'll see what transpires here. We'll see what unfolds. Okay. Simon's asking, is a 20K account too small to trade futures? I don't think so. Not at all, especially with minis and micros. You can trade a mini account with 20K. You can learn really well with a 20K micro account. You can really, I would say, Simon, start off with micros though first. Start off with micros. They're definitely better to start off with micros, just to kind of deal with the emotional aspect of it. That plays a huge role. And find a mentor. Cut your learning curve. Don't try to go at this alone. There's so many folks out here willing to help. Make sure you find a good mentor, somebody who's done it for a while, has been through the ups and downs. That is definitely the way I would approach it. It took me about 4 years before I found my first mentor, and he cut the learning curve down for me significantly. I know people that never found a mentor and struggled for a bit. But the world is so connected now, with social media and so on and so forth. And you really can't when I started trading futures, I feel like there were more nefarious, like bad actors that were just trying to scam you and trying to get your money. And it wasn't until I found and started trading along the guys of Mr. Top Step that I kind of found a crew to help me out, to learn me, teach me the ropes, and show me how to trade. So that's kind of my story. All right, still moving higher here, guys. Remember, we're looking for the settlement, 74.2650. All right, that's our next target. And then if we can get above there, we're looking at 74.30. As I mentioned in the pre-market, buy the dip. Buy the dip.
All right. If you're a trader, you know this feeling. You're staring at the chart,
I've got
you
to
see
take
the
a
move,
quick
you jump
bathroom
in,
break. I'll be
and
right
somehow
back.
you're always a step behind. It turns into this constant chase. Now, what if you flip that? What if instead of chasing the market, you started getting ahead of it? Not by guessing where it's going, but by understanding when. Because if you really think about it, this is the question that changes everything. Most traders get obsessed with price, finding the perfect level, the perfect support, the perfect resistance. But what if the real edge isn't where at all? What if it's when? And this slide right here lays that out. Two completely different ways to trade. On the left, that's reactive trading. That's chasing price. That's relying on indicators that lag. That's making emotional decisions in real time. We've all been there. On the right, that's the different game. The anticipatory trading, that's calm, that's structured, that's proactive. Because now you're following a roadmap based on time. It's the difference between being a passenger and actually being in control. And this is why it matters. A good trade isn't just price. It's three things: price, level, and time.
This is
But most traders are trying
David.
to win with just the first two.
Check 1,
And
2.
that's why everything
You
feels
guys.
inconsistent. Time is the missing piece. But here's the reality.
Large
The
voice.
market is not random.
Hey, Rich, where
It
did you
moves
grow up
with
in
rhythm.
Connecticut?
There's a flow to it, a schedule. patterns that repeat. And once you start to see that, you stop reacting to what just happened and you start anticipating what's likely next. So the question becomes, how do you actually see that? That's where the
I'm in
execution
Connecticut.
clock comes in. It does one thing really well. It makes time visible. It takes something most traders feel but can't define, and it turns it into a structured roadmap you can use every day. And when you look at it, this isn't just another chart. This isn't more indicators. This is a visual guide to how the day can unfold. You'll see it clearly, defined time windows. These are the
Middletown.
zones where highs and
All
lows
right.
tend to form. It's clean,
I am
it's
in
simple,
Madison.
and most importantly, it's actionable. Now, let's be clear. This is not a crystal ball. It's not predicting one exact outcome. The market doesn't move one
Aren't we
way.
in
It
Madison?
moves in different patterns, different
Been here
rhythms.
for many, many years.
That's why the execution clock gives you 4 main scenarios. We'll call them series days. Think about it like a playbook. You're not guessing, you're prepared. So let's walk through them. First, series 1 day.
All right.
This maps out one
All right,
possible
guys.
structure
I know
for the
Manny
day
stepped off for a moment,
with its
so
own timing
wanted
for highs and
to
lows. Then you have
jump
series
in.
2 day, different rhythm, different flow, different
Used to
turning
rent a
points.
cottage there
Next,
in the 1950s.
series 3
Okay,
day.
cool.
Again,
I am
another
actually,
variation on how the day can develop based on its
I
own
live
time
on Park
structure.
Avenue,
And then series
right
4
off Middle
day.
Beach Road.
When you put it all together, you have a
That's where I am.
complete framework. You're not
A
reacting
nice
anymore. You're
unobstructed view
prepared
of
for
Long
how the
Island.
day can unfold. And this part right
Looking out my
here is important.
window.
On the left, you'll see the raw
Great
timing
to have you with
logic,
us.
the
Great to have everybody
foundation.
with us.
On the right, you see how that gets
Also,
turned into something usable,
Manny's
something
doing a great
clean,
job there,
structured, and actionable.
moderating
This isn't
my
theory.
time
This is
here.
built for real trading. So let's bring this into the real market.
Is
How
as a
does this
contributor
actually
on
help
Wednesday
you
mornings.
when you're
So I
live?
didn't want to
Let's go
interrupt
through a
what
couple
Manny
of
was
key
doing.
examples.
He's
First
guiding
one,
you guys really
10:30
nicely.
a.m. Eastern. If you trade
You'll see
ES
my
or
charts down
NQ, you already
below.
know.
Okay,
The
this is
major
what I
inflection
am
point in the morning. Now let's look at series
broadcasting
2-day
in
roadmap.
the PTG
It
community,
highlights the
Polaris
window
Trading
from 10
Group
to 10:45 and
community.
right in the center time, 10:30.
And
That's not
again, I
random.
have an
That's a
active
high
community,
probability zone for a low to form.
as well.
So instead of guessing, you're prepared.
And so
You're
Wednesday
watching for
mornings
it. You're ready
is
to
my
react when the
slot
market gets
time
there.
here with Pitbull
Now
Traders
let's
to
move forward.
contribute
1:30 p.m. Another key rotation
commentaries,
time.
trades, just
Again,
kind of
go to
describing,
series
showing what we're doing
3-day
here on our
map.
side.
Same thing. You got a defined window centered
Okay,
around
so Manny's
that
done a great
time.
job. What
Another
you're seeing
potential
simply in
turning point.
our
This is
our
the
charts
edge.
here
It's
are
not
our
vague.
active
It's
trades.
specific. It gives
We
you
do a lot of
timing,
things
not
algorithmically.
guesses. And when you look across all 4 series,
Okay.
you'll start
Also,
to notice
by the
something.
way, if
These
you
key
want to
times
zoom in on
repeat.
any of these charts that are being
10
displayed,
a.m. potential lows
you
on certain
realize in the
days.
top right-hand
11
corner,
a.m.
there's a little,
potential highs on
like a
certain
little white
days.
square
2:30 midday rotation.
on the chart display.
3:30
So if
late
you were
day
to click on
move.
that
The
white
clock
square,
puts all of it in front
okay,
of you.
you'll
So
zoom
instead
in
of
on
reacting,
either
you're
Manny's charts
anticipating.
or my
And
charts,
that's the shift.
and then
You
you
stop
can use
chasing.
your
You
scroll
stop
wheel
guessing. You start trading with structure. You start
to
trading
zoom
with a
in.
plan. You start
Oh,
trading with timing on
boom.
your
Hey,
side.
David.
And that
Hey,
gives you a
Thanks for
Manny.
completely
joining.
different
Yep.
level of
And you can use
confidence.
your
You're
scroll
not getting
wheel
faked out
to
by every
zoom in,
move. You're not late to
right, on either
everything.
Manny's
You're
charts
aligned.
or mine.
And for
So get a
ES
little
and
Oh,
bit
yeah.
of
NQ
a
traders, this is the edge most people
closer
don't
kind
have.
of
Not just
view
knowing where,
of
but knowing
what's
when.
happening there on ours.
So I'll leave you with
Okay.
this. Think about
So
tomorrow
where
morning.
we are
You're
right
logged in.
now,
Instead of
yeah,
staring
Manny,
at
I
a
think
black chart,
is
you'll
long,
already have a
if
roadmap.
I'm not
You
mistaken.
already know the key
We are long
times,
also
the
at
key
the moment.
windows, the key
Right, we have
opportunities.
on the right-hand
How
side chart, you'll
different
see
does that feel?
we have
Because that one
what we
shift,
call a
it
discount,
changes
and
everything.
which is a
If
long.
you'd like to know more about the
And we
execution
already got a
clock,
couple
go to
scales out of that. So that's
pitbulltraders.com
kind of where
and
we
click
are
on the
right now.
Trader Edge tab.
Our basic premise here, everyone, is just staying in alignment with the, whatever the current direction is. We don't look to counter trend trade in any way, right? And we 74.10, I think was our line in the sand today. I think Manny had something on the long side near that level as well. So a lot of what Manny puts out for his levels and our levels actually are very complementary, right? And Manny has a solid game plan each morning. So check in early in. He posts those every morning as well. Now I post my stuff. We all do things separately, of course. I post my what we call a daily trade strategy briefing in the evenings for the next day. And I did post a link up there in the room, so you can check that out. what we posted for today. I posted that it's published by 9 p.m. each evening. So you can check that out. You get open access to that for everybody today. And yeah, so Manny's, our daily moderator. He does a great job. And again, he brings in special guests as well as myself. We're all kind of contributors to the pit bull traders community, kind of giving you, offering different perspectives. Okay, everybody has different ways of trading. There's not one way, to be profitable trader. And I come in, and then Bo, and then Tom. Some of you experienced them already. Rich, and all have very unique ways of parsing the data, determining what type of trades to take, right, for themselves based on their plans. So the idea when you come into the Pitbull community is you get kind of an overall, view of different perspectives, right, from the contributors, which could be, again, could add some value to what you're currently doing. Manny is our base moderator trader every day, so again, he's going to be there day in and day out, uh, guiding the group. Right, so again, he does a great job. And but we all have different styles. Okay, Manny's more, I guess, a position trader, right, at levels, entering at levels and holding them for his fives, tens, 20s, and whatever the market will offer. We're more somewhat of a flow, kind of directional, meaning we're looking to have a level, for instance, hold. So like this morning, the 7410s, on the pullback hold, and then getting a reclaim of that level. I think it went a little bit below, down to 7,400 or so, and then get a reclaim of that level, and then on the reclaim, right, which would, in this case, would be a bullish play, then establishing a long trade on a reclaim, and then trying to ride that move. All right. So that's kind of the core of kind of what we do, and very complementary to what Manny does on his side. But again, different approach. And I believe Manny does use some of our algorithms there, so that's nice to see. You'll see some of, uh, I guess, on his right chart, you'll see something similar to what we use. So pretty sure that helps Manny out at times as well. So, anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to post anything. And I'll just kind of keep chiming in when I see something, or if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to happy to respond to any of those questions. Yeah, Art Carney used to summon here in Madison as well. So excellent. Where are you now, Rich? By the way, in the Boston area. I grew up in the Boston area. Where are you? Where are you in the Boston? What part of the burbs out there in Boston? I grew up in Andover, Concord. Okay, I grew up in Andover, northern Massachusetts, northeast Massachusetts, Andover. So great, excellent, great to have you with us. Also, if you guys are watching, by the way, you guys are in our room here, the pit room. If you guys happen to also be monitoring the room via YouTube, okay, and again, we're kind of broadcasting in the YouTube world as well. But if you happen to be broadcasting in YouTube, all right, I would ask, um, if you go over there, even just if you opened it up, and give us a like, a thumbs up, like, maybe even subscribe, so you always get notification. Though you may be in our um, room here, this is our primary room, but we are broadcasting to the general public as well over in YouTube. So yeah, if you would just kind of check that out over there and give us a like, because that helps bring up, the viewership over in the YouTube world, right? But this is where you're going to get a lot of the cool meat and potatoes. There, thank you, Marlon. Marlon just posted up the YouTube for Pitbull traders. So yeah, give us a kind of a thumbs up on a daily basis. That would certainly help the algorithm. And it's what you folks are doing here. If you like what we do, um, yeah, Jim Mayo's also a Bostonian, right? So you guys could probably get together, Rich and Jim. You guys are close, right? Waltham, Concord. So you guys are in that area. Yeah, if you make it down here, Rich, if you're coming down through this neck of the woods, definitely give me a holler. You know, summertime's starting to get rolling around here. Stuart, you grew up in what, Weston, Mass? Weston, Mass. Okay, great, nice. So we got a lot of Massachusetts people. There you go. Excellent. All right, take it away, Manny.
Yep.
All we
No,
hear.
thanks, David. Two things that I wanted to kind of share with you in the group is one, so I have a bunch of family up in the Boston area, up North Mass. I think it's Methuen area. It's kind of up there.
Oh, Manny, you're kidding me. Are you
No,
serious?
yeah, I'm done. No, I'm dead serious. Why?
Wow.
You know the area?
I grew up in Andover, Lawrence, Andover.
Oh yeah, that's right. So, and then like Southern New Hampshire. Although so I know that when we go, we go into New Hampshire often. I have a cousin who lives in New Hampshire also, but I don't remember the town. It's right on the border.
Nashua, Salem.
Salem, there it is. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Salem, New
So
Hampshire.
man, there's a really beautiful land foliage there in the fall. It's like so spectacular. It's really,
Yeah.
really nice.
You know where I used to where my hangout was every summer was Salisbury Beach, Hampton Beach.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I mean I know Rich and those guys. I'm sure Jim knows as well, right? Yeah, Hampton Beach, Salisbury Beach, and this is where I grew up. I mean, this is Amesbury. Uh, it's all along the shoreline up there, and they have a great kind of Salisbury was the honky tonk kind of, they had the all the rides and the bumper cars and the Ferris wheel and the roller coaster. Okay, so it was great. It was a great time to grow up. You know, uh, in the 70s. Okay, in the 70s, that was my time, and uh, and then Hampton Beach. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Rich, Jim. Yeah.
That's
Do a
awesome.
trading beer at Jake and Joe's. All right.
That's great to hear. So another thing I wanted to that you touched on, and not to move off the subject really quickly, because
Yeah.
I just love that stuff. But you're talking about different trading approaches, and I just wanted to circle back on that because you're so true, right? So like you can I forgot who I was speaking to recently, and he mentioned you can trade the market through any lens. Like so you have people trading you know, moving averages, you have people trading market profile, you have people trading Fibonacci, and all of them have their profitable traders and not. So understand that, as David was saying, I'm more of a position trader looking for those out of range support and resistances. That's why my levels tend to be a little bit, further away. And David is more of, he's waiting for that structure shift and then participating in that structure shift. And, in my opinion, there's no one size fits all. And I think David, David and I see eye to eye on a lot of this stuff. And I think he would agree with me that, there's no right or wrong. There's no one size fits all. It's literally comes down to what you feel most comfortable with. I know over the course of, over many years, I've, I tried a bunch of different disciplines. I tried traditional technical analysis, Edwards and McGee. I studied that stuff. I studied trends that's where I really basically started. And then I studied Elliott wave, and then I studied DeMark, and then I studied market profile, and then and then I studied volume profile, all of it. And essentially what I end up with was bits and pieces of all of it. But and that was through a process of elimination. So I ultimately just took the things that worked and threw away the things that didn't, and that's how my trading system formed. That's how I come up with my levels every day. Trade plan is just a hybrid of all those. So it's very hard for me to, we were kind of talking about here in the pit at one point about me going over how I get my levels and how I create those, and I said I was going to explain it or go over it, and I found myself put it together, and I ran into problems because it's such a hybrid approach that it was very hard how to explain it. And that's something that I'm still working on, because there are certain days that if I had to put it all in a nutshell, the levels that I derive, like I mentioned earlier, from fib clusters and from flow levels. I also, guys that I've traded with for a long time know how big of a fan I am of trend lines and channels. I think that you can find a trend line or a channel pretty much, and you can craft your system around that. So it's just I love it when I have a base and I start off with some good flow levels, and then I have good Fibonacci clusters in that area, and then I have a good trend line. I mean, we don't get that every day, but yeah, it's a little bit about how I'm. So heads up, guys. So we went up, we tested, and I took one off just in here somewhere. I think at like 23 or 20, no, 24, 25, just to be prudent. We're at that execution clock time zone now, so I don't want to let the entire position evaporate. I want to try to stay in it for as long as possible. So I'll let this stop. I'll leave this stop at break even, and now I'm going to tune away from this chart, kind of focus on something else, and see how it plays out. And so if you're looking at my right-hand chart here, so I'm executing, I have this algorithm that's going to give me, this is kind of a hybrid of what David's using, right? This is David's algorithm. This is the PTG ATA. I'm using it on 3,000, kind of like a time frame that mimics more closely to a 15-minute chart. I love that time frame for execution. And so it would get me long in here at 74.19. However, here's a caveat, right? It's let you in a little bit how I'm looking at things. So I'm following the execution clock. You guys know it frames my trades, right? And I'm not seeing a turn coming. I don't want to execute a long trade when I'm just coming out of what? I'm just coming out of this window here, guys. I don't want to get long. I'd rather wait. It's 10:40. I'm looking for a low with a center time of around 11:30, 11:45. So I'm willing to wait. And typically, I may miss a trade. Fine, that's great. That's going to happen. I'm okay with that. But what's going to happen over time is that what I often see is that we'll get, say, I'm looking to get long in here, like on this algorithm 74.19, it's looking to get long. Frequently what will happen is we'll come down, we'll bounce, we'll trade, and then into that time frame we'll get a retest of that level. See it time and time again. You'll often hear me say, hey, let's trade later in the balanced area, later in the window, especially when it comes to those middle of the day time frames. Middle of the day trades, I should say. Heads up. Let me know if you guys have you guys executed anything today? Are you long? Are you short? What are you thinking? There's no right or wrong. Share your ideas, share your plans. This is how we all grow and learn together. No problem sharing my execution, my plans, but I'd love to hear where you guys see it. Objectively speaking, I'm fascinated with the way other traders trade the market. I've learned pretty much more from other traders than I've learned from books and tutorials and stuff like that. So I'm always looking to explore. I'm sure you guys tuned in yesterday, and Bo was on yesterday, and Bo trades a completely different style from the way I trade, and I've learned things from Bo, and I constantly am trying to help him out and share insight with him and kind of understand how he sees things and how he trades, just like I am with David and all the rest of the guys here. And just as a heads up, today we have Danny and Lauren coming in at noon. Oh, thanks, me JT. So me JT, he has today S1L. I have it as let's see, my L. No, I think I'm H. Yeah, I'm H today. S1H. So Danny and Lauren are coming in today to join us at noon today, so look out for that. Danny and Lauren bring some excellent ideas and content to our orbit, right? They have Danny is really good on mindset, and Danny's been around a long time. Very weathered trader. Obviously you can't be doing this for this long without reaching some level of success. So always looking out for her. We're constantly adding new traders, new content. So yeah. You can see this algorithm got me short here at 74.28. Looking for a 75, looking for a 3-point on the first. And then a 5-point on the second. And then a 10-point on the third. All right. So that's kind of what's going on there. It's kind of warm in here today. Living in Florida now, I just, being from New York City, I don't take for granted the beautiful weather here. But if there's one thing that I miss, guys, it's the fall. And the fall is so short-lived. It's just literally maybe like 4 to 6 weeks, as I remember it. But yeah, if there was one thing that I missed, it's that. CNBC just came out, OpenAI testimony. Sam Altman tried to make one point clear. He didn't steal a charity. Let's see, Battle of Billionaires, right? So let's see, what did he say here? He didn't steal a charity. Altman answered questions about his role in the founding of OpenAI, his relationship with Musk, OpenAI's corporate structure, and his brief ouster as CEO in 2023. All right, heads up, got that first target, so plus 3 points on that. Plus 3 points, heads up, got that one. Yeah. Interesting how who believed that? Which one of you guys believe that Elon is really being honest and truthful about, keeping AI, like making sure that AI doesn't hurt humanity. Because I'll be straightforward with you, I really want to believe it. I do. So I don't know if I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. Let me know how you guys see it. What am I missing? Yeah. I feel like Sam Altman is like, I don't know. He's a weird fellow. I feel like I don't know. His eyes are weird. His eyes weird me out when I see him in interviews and stuff. I don't know if I can believe him, but I'm willing to. I'm willing to. I don't want to be cynical. Stewart points out, you see, yesterday Ron Barron said that of his 60 billion in gains, 28 billion came from Elon stocks. Simon on YouTube wants to know is if it goes back to 73.99, will you be a buyer and how big? 73.99. So Simon, if you check out my X feed, I put out my daily setups there. It's at Manny_trends. That was setup number 2. We bought it. I missed the initial entry at 73.92 to 96 as it was written, but I did buy it at 74.10. If it comes down for a retest, the way I would execute it, yes, I would buy it again, but the way I would execute it would be a little bit differently this time. Is I would be looking for it to flush or get below 73.99, and I want to see it reclaim. Okay, so that's kind of the way I would execute that. It's a little bit more tricky on the second test, but yeah, I would try it again if the conditions were as I just stated. So we flush below and then come back up and reclaim it. Then I'm interested in buying it. So if price is coming down, right? If it's coming down, then I won't immediately park an order there. I'm going to wait. What I really would like to see is for it to flush, get below, and then reclaim it above and get back above it. Without that, and then demonstrate some acceptance. So if I don't know what time frame you're using, but on a typical, many traders use a 5-minute time frame. So I'd be looking for on a 5-minute time frame. I'd be looking for at least 2 closes back above the 73.99 level, which is today's low. I hope that helps you out. If not, let me know. Just let me know what wasn't clear about that. I think that so my levels are always good for the day. Can use those for the day. And furthermore, if it was in a time frame that lines up with the execution clock, I would be that's the ideal setup in a perfect world. We don't always get what we want, right? I mean, sometimes you just have to put the risk on. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I think linear thinking and trading can hurt you. A lot is spoken about rules and stuff, and yeah, you have to have certain rules. I think mostly your rules should be surrounded around your risk management, and then your entry and exit criteria should probably be more guidelines, just real-time reads, and so forth. So, hope that helps you out, buddy. If not, let me know. Large Voice says, I think Elon's experience with media manipulation motivates his pursuit of truth. On balance, he'd rather be fact-checked and wrong than let a machine lie to him. That's interesting. That's an interesting take. Reverie says, is that about Altman? I want to make sure I get this right. Hey, Rev, is that about Altman or Elon? I don't know. I think it's about Altman. Elon. Oh, they said Elon is the reptilian who wants to be a Martian. I think Sam Altman looks like he's like, if you could download a human and install it as an app, you look like Sam Altman. I just feel like he's just looks like a walking app. Musk saved X, and that was very important. Yep, he sure did. Yep, he sure did. And now he's gonna and now he's going to reap the rewards. All right, guys. So I'm wrong on this algo trade. I got the first target. Not willing to give up too much more here. The risk is way up there, but I'm just going to close it out here. Yeah, the trend is way too strong here. Reset, reload, continue to buy the dip. Stewart points out, wait, let me back up. Rich Boston says Musk saved. Okay, we just went through that. Yep. Price surprising when ticks and ADD still weak. Yeah. So, Stewart, just a little bit about ADD. I heard you talking about it yesterday, highlighting it with Bo. And there's one tricky thing about ADD, and here's what I've learned about it: is that ADD, if you're using it to trade in the daytime, so if you're looking to place day trades based off of ADD, that can get, it's not, in my opinion, in my experience, it's not a very good indicator for daytime frame trade. It can diverge for days. So you can see weakness in ADD, and there are a lot of how should I say it? Gosh, what is that publication, that well-known publication that often talked about the breath? Gosh, I don't. Hang on a second. McClellan, yes. Good large boy. Thank you. Yep, exactly. So McClellan often talks about divergences in breadth, right? And I don't know that much about it, but I do know that when I was following ADD a lot and using it often, I would see that it would have these large divergences for days, and I would be in the trading in the day time frame and like selling stuff, against the 5-minute or 10-minute ADD and just getting run over. And so a better barometer for that is this weighted AD, right? So look, you can see how ADD here is. I keep it up, I watch it, but you can see how it's kind of moving lower. But yesterday you can see how it came off, it sold off, it did follow price, but it's really hard to. I found it really hard to trade the day time frame with it. I like to watch the weighted AD just for general direction, but I don't think that these tools are really good for precision entries as we need them. Yeah, McClellan is I whenever I can get my hands on that publication, I love it. I really do. It's really solid. McClellan oscillator. He's got an indicator too on Thinkorswim. He's got, if I'm correct, he's got more than one. Pretty cool, pretty smart guy. He's been doing this forever. Delphine points out today's monthly VIX expiration. Is it? Oh, snap. You're right. Oh, hang tight. Let me buzz my buddy on WhatsApp. He's really, really good about the VIX. Let me ask him. I'll let you guys know. My buddy's a really weather trader. He's actually, excuse me, he's actually from Spain, but really good about the VIX. I always ping him whenever I want to know something. He usually has, I know he has an idea about what to expect on a VIX expiry. Yeah, so I'm out of setups unless we get over 73, 74.52. So point and click is going to be on hold for a bit here. On May 19th, okay. Thanks, Delphine. Yeah, OPEX is this Friday, so expect some. I hate OPEX, to be honest with you. So hard to read. I mean, lately, even though lately it hasn't been that bad, it's typically, I don't know. I've just had some really bad days on OPEX. You know, just I've gotten chopped to pieces. OPEX is probably responsible for more tilt days than any other day in the market. All right, gang. I just got pinged. I accidentally. Wait a minute. If that's supposed to, that's 11 a.m. Why is that 11 a.m.? It's supposed to be 12. I just got pinged, guys. I have to join this meeting. I'm going to step out now, but heads up. You've got the level. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. You've got the levels. You got the clock. If not, check out the feed for that. If we've added any type, if we've helped you out in any way, if we've added any type of value to your trading at all, please do us a favor, leave a comment, smash the like button. And one other thing that I want to alert you guys to is that Danny and Lauren are going to be joining us here in an hour. Look out for that. I think it's going to be Danny and Lauren. If it's just Danny, I'll sidecar her and just kind of I'll keep her company. But yeah, like I said, if you got anything out of this at all, do me a favor, hit the like, hit the comment, subscribe, leave some feedback. Let us know how we can improve your trading. And we'll be back tomorrow from 9:10 to 11:30, like we do every day. We're going to frame out the trades. We're going to make some money. Don't forget to tune back in. All right, I'm out of here. See, I got to